That is neat.
I don't need to learn anything else today.
So this is Reverend James the Voice Hatton, and you might have just heard us on the podcast, the audio version of the podcast, talking about geek culture and where it's going, and is the current Hollywood industry destroying our culture? Yada yada yada. Listen to the podcast if you want to know more if you haven't already. In any event, but James here, he is the creator of an awesome webcomic, as you know, called In His Likeness. .com. You can find out more information about the comic at inhislikeness.com. And we're sitting here, this is actually planned out, go figure, but we're sitting in Wild Pig Comics, which is located on Michigan Avenue in Kenilworth, New Jersey, and it's a great little comic book shop. And it's one of actually probably the few that are still alive and doing halfway decently. And the reason I bring it up like that is because one of the questions, that we constantly ask is, where is the comic book industry going? Technology has taken off like a shot over the past 5 years. And, if you parallel that to, let's say, for example, San Diego Comic-Con, we were talking earlier, you had attended about 2004, 2005.
The weirdest deja vu.
I know. And then I had gone 2009 and 2011, and just for me, just trying to get tickets, it was easy in 2009, and then in 2011, it was harder than I don't even want to think about it. I don't even have it.
Even in 2004 and 5, it was exceptionally hard to get hotels. I remember that.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, I knew loopholes.
Yeah.
Because I worked for a entertainment website at the time.
Yeah.
So I got an understaffed badge.
Ah.
But it was, I remember the day where we sat and hammered to try and get hotel rooms, just to get our press information in. Yeah. You had to validate it. There was a vetting process. It was small. It's gotten worse from what I understand. But yeah, San Diego's
it's huge, and it's mega now because of the Hollywood influence.
Very much.
And so San Diego Comic-Con, much like the rest of the comic cons and comic book conventions that happen, were just about that. They were about the print comic books. And it begs the question, now that Hollywood's influence has kind of taken a hold of it and technology is what it is today, are comic books dead?
There's a lot of different facets. The first one is, take for example, I'm a webcomic artist. I've been doing my work for a decade at this point. That means that I give away my stuff online for free. I sell books, but I give away my comics for free. Marvel doesn't, but they've, in the last 3 or so years, the comic book companies have started to catch on to the digital movement. Now you can read your comics on your tablet or your phone. There's some really great software out there to read them. I read half my comics online or on the computer or on my tablet, very specifically. Anyway, and here I am in a comic book store with the floppies and the trade paperbacks and everything. I love my trade paperbacks, but I'm part of the death of the print industry as well.
Yeah. Actually, to that point, you had somebody come in, this poor soul come in with his backpack.
Right.
And he had this handful of comics and said, hey, are you going to buy these? And blah, blah, blah. And we all have that box sitting at home with...
That box?
That box. Or those boxes. Exactly. Yeah. Sitting at home, dreams of somebody, buying our comics for what we think that they're worth or what Wizard would say that they're worth.
There's no more Wizard anymore. That's gone too. Print industry went first. Yeah. Comics had to catch up.
But you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, or with the price guides. But the price guides, say that they are worth, and we all dream of having the Superman #1 sitting in the attic, under the floorboards and things like that. But that being said, he came in with these comics. He had no idea, what they were worth, whatever. And they were from what, like the 80s, early 80s?
There was a mix from like the 80s to present. There was stuff that was about 5-10 years old.
Yeah, and what were they? They were worth 5 cents, right?
Well,
but
depending on who you're going to ask, yeah. He came in with a sloppy backpack full of crumpled comics.
Yeah.
Chris the guy who runs Wild Pig Comics.
On Michigan Avenue in Kenilworth, New Jersey.
Chris, who is a master of selling comics.
Yes.
I mean, he is one of the most honest to goodness, greatest comic book salesmen in the universe. He sells thousands of these comic books. This entire, I don't know whether you see all the back here, this back wall, they're all 50 cents.
Yeah.
These are comics that he is selling that were book at the time when they were on the wall that were going for anywhere from $1 to $4, and the goal is to sell them in bulk. I mean, that's really what your pallets of comics are getting out of here. And that's part of the problem, is that everybody had the collection, and yeah, when Action Comics #1 came out, nobody knew to collect it because there was no collector's market for it. Now that this turned into a collector's market, the minute something becomes a collector's market, the bottom falls out and it's not worth shit.
Yeah.
So, what do you do?
Yeah, and then, in my opinion, I think the comic book companies, DC and Marvel, they got greedy.
Oh,
for a while.
tons of
big
times.
time. And when in my, I guess you can call it my heyday of comics, which was the late 90s.
Which was around the death of them, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Is when we saw, it's funny that you say the death. That's when we saw the death of Superman. How many variant covers of Death of Superman are there that exist? And then that whole bullshit about the black cover, and nobody could open the black cover, and if you opened it, it wasn't worth as much. But here's the thing, is that you can't mass produce something, put it in a sleeve that everybody and their mother's going to buy, and it be worth something. I mean, really, how much is Death of Superman actually worth?
I've personally thrown out boxes of them.
Wow.
I'm dead serious.
I believe it. I believe it. Because they
box.
printed a shit ton of
But
them.
that's the trick. DC Comics, or whomever, any comic company, doesn't care about the resellability of the book.
No, they care about
the initial sale of the book.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it's not their fault that they said this is the death of Superman, and every mom and pop ever who has ever looked at a Superman comic, movie, cartoon, whatever, said this is going to be worth something. It's not their fault. They knew it was going to happen, so they made sure that they printed twice as many. But everybody and their mother said, oh, I got the $25 variant special edition with the chromium cover and the holographic Lois Lane bust shot. Like, whatever the stupid thing was. It's not DC's fault that, well, all right, I guess it's DC's fault that they capitalized on it. But any business owner is going to. It's all of those people at the time thinking that since everybody's got one of these things, how much is mine worth? They're worth pennies. Like you can build a house out of them.
Literally.
Yeah, quite
with the stacks.
And like I said, I've thrown out boxes.
Superman went electric. The same thing happened. There was like about 5 different variant covers of that. And now we've seen, I think, almost a rebirth of that with the New 52. Because then you have the New 52, which is 52 new books, revamping. So that's 52 new titles for the fanboys and girls to go out and collect at $3.75 a piece. But seriously, like, what does, I guess the next question is like, what is the next step? Is this the right path? Is revamp #1? I mean, we can go on about revamping all of the old stories and, how, whether or not it's worth it to do that, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's a different beast entirely.
And something that, we'll touch upon at another time.
Future editions.
Future editions. Stay tuned. Foreshadowing. But, is that the right way to go? Is that the way to save print? Is that the way to save comic books in general? Or, same thing with movies. They're revamping movies, things like that. What will it take to save the comic industry? Or can it be saved? I
think right now, comics is in a better spot than other industries were at the point in time where technology tried to usurp them. It took, a good decade for the iTunes buy a song model started to catch up and that's the music industry now. You have singles on iTunes or Amazon or wherever you buy your music from, but how many people actually go out and buy CDs? It doesn't happen so much. All right. Sorry, I forgot Roxy got stuck in 1994.
6. Get it right.
Fair enough. Comics have been dying on the vine for the last 15 years. It's been a slow but short trudge since the death of Superman. That's actually like the BC AD.
That's where it jumped the shark.
It really did.
Yeah.
And I think that since then, with Comixology, and which I think is really the big one, it's an app that they sell their comics from.
Mm-hmm.
They sell, they do big sales for. You can get full trades worth of stuff very quickly and cheaply. Or that's the beast, is the cost issue. What I think you're going to find is that the hardcore collectors are always going to want the floppies in the same way that you're always going to have people who buy books from Amazon or CDs from, I don't know where you possibly go to get those.
Target.
Okay. But there's always going to be that hardcore collector.
Yeah.
It's just, the key is that it costs nothing to transfer a file. Mm-hmm. For you to take a song from the Beatles catalog, it's the same copy of the song that I got when I bought it from that website, and the same copy that somebody else got it, and it's the same copy of the song. It costs nothing to transfer it out, so to speak. It costs money to print a book, to have it sit on a shelf. There's a middleman involved, a different sort of middleman. There's an extra middleman in Wild Pig Comics selling you the comic, or Target selling you the CD, versus the music industry selling you the song from iTunes. Let me see whether I can make that clearer. Wild Pigs buys it from distributor. The distributor gets it from the comic book company. Mm-hmm. iTunes gets it from the artist, or the artist or the music company. Yeah. There's a step missing. Yeah. So that means that there should be a savings in that, and sometimes it doesn't transfer over. I'm getting way too into
that's
inside
fine.
Baseball.
But I guess, just to kind of sum up, Wild Pig Comics, they in Kenilworth, New Jersey. You mentioned this is the second time they reopened.
Yep.
Which is great that Chris decided to come back and reopen the shop. But I guess the question is, will it survive?
I will tell you why it'll survive.
Okay.
And that's
this is not just.
No,
I'm not just talking about this store particular. I mean comic book shops in general.
Here's what they need to survive. Mm-hmm. They need to not rely just on comics. Mm-hmm. You need to bring in artists. You need to have table talk discussions about comics. You need to have sales. You need to regularly keep your client base, your local client base, interested in coming back into the store. Mm-hmm. A reason to come back in. I know he does board game nights. He does the Magic card game nights. Yeah. I'm starting a book club here where we can sit and talk about the recent trade paperback that we really like. It needs to be an inviting. You're not just going there for comics. Comics are a great backdrop and they're a great kind of gateway drug, but you need to have something there that's always going to entice people to come back to the store. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what comic book stores are going to continue to need. They can't just be hardcore funny books all the time with shirts and action figures and tons and thousands of books on the wall. Because there's 1,000 comic companies now.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, literally. There needs to be continuous support and friendliness and an atmosphere that people want to come into the store regularly and buy in bulk, like I said, or buy the trade paperbacks, because he's fighting versus the digital age, and in the long run he'll lose. Note how many horse and buggy companies are still out there since cars showed up.
Nice. Well, thank you so much.
I'm happy to be here. I was going to be here anyway.
No, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure, as always.
It's a good time, and I look forward to more discussions like this in the future.
Oh yes.
Yes, recurring.
I can babble about this crap forever.
So again, this was Reverend James the Voice Hatton, creator of In His Likeness, the awesome webcomic about God and the devil and all of their friends. It's a big comic. Bunch of dots, but
it's true.
Really
it's minimalistic.
Minimalistic.
But it's about mythology.
But if you want more information about James and the rest of his projects, you can go to inhislikeness.com.
And I'm big on Facebook.
And he's big on Facebook too. So. That was awesome.